Welcome to the Photos of the Past channel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Ma Barker rose to infamy in the 1930s as the matriarch of the Barker Karpus gang. She guided her 4 sons into a life of crime, orchestrating bank robberies, kidnappings, and other offenses. In 1935, the FBI killed her in a shootout in Florida. Ma Barker remains remembered as a criminal mother and a legendary figure in organized crime. Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow gained fame in the 1930s America for their bank robberies and violent clashes with police. This rare photo captures the couple posing with weapons. Seen as anti-heroes by the public, the duo met their end in a police ambush in 1934. Bonnie and Clyde remain iconic symbols of love and crime in history. Albert Fish became one of America's most terrifying criminals in the early 1900s. Known for his gruesome murders and acts of cannibalism targeting children, he earned the nicknames the Gray Man and the Brooklyn Vampire. Fish was executed in 1936, but his horrific crimes continue to haunt criminal history. H.H. Holmes built the infamous Murder Castle in Chicago during the late 1800s. Filled with maze-like passages and hidden rooms, he lured his victims inside. He killed them in gas chambers and dismembered their bodies in the basement. Holmes confessed to 27 murders, but the true number remains unknown. He was executed in 1896. Ned Kelly became one of Australia's most infamous outlaws in the late 1800s. Known for his resistance against British colonial rule and his iconic suit of armor, Kelly left a mark on history through daring robberies and gunfights. Captured at Glenrowan in 1880, he was executed soon after. Ned Kelly remains a symbol of rebellion and a folk hero in Australian history. Jeffrey Dahmer was a serial killer who murdered 17 young men between 1978 and 1991, infamous for his gruesome acts of mutilation and cannibalism. Dahmer lured his victims to his home, where he committed horrific crimes. He was arrested in 1991 and sentenced to life in prison. In 1994, he was killed by a fellow inmate. Dahmer remains one of the most chilling figures in criminal history. Wayne Gacy became one of America's most terrifying serial killers in the 1970s. While working as a clown at children's parties, Gacy kidnapped and murdered 33 young men. He buried most of the bodies in the crawlspace beneath his home. Convicted in 1980, he was sentenced to death. Gacy remains infamous as the killer clown in history. Butch Cassidy gained fame as the leader of the Wild Bunch gang in the late 1800s. Known for train and bank robberies, he became one of the most feared names in the Wild West. Cassidy was admired for his intelligence and remarkable ability to evade capture. He was reportedly killed in a shootout in South America in 1908, but his legend continues to spark debate. Lucky Luciano is regarded as one of the most influential mafia leaders of the 20th century. He modernized organized crime and laid the foundations of the American mafia. Through gambling, smuggling, and violence, he amassed immense power. Arrested in 1936, he was released during World War II. Luciano remains known as one of the most cunning strategists in mafia history. Al Capone rose to power as one of America's most feared mob bosses in the 1920s. He built a massive fortune in Chicago through illegal alcohol, gambling, and violence. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929 etched his name into criminal history. In 1931, he was arrested for tax evasion and sent to prison. Capone remains one of the most infamous figures in mafia history. Lizzie Borden was accused of the gruesome 1892 axe murders of her father and stepmother, shocking the town of Fall River, Massachusetts. Though acquitted in court, she was never absolved in the eyes of the public. Lizzie's story inspired chilling nursery rhymes and folklore. To this day, the mystery surrounding the murders remains unsolved. John Dillinger was a notorious bank robber during the Great Depression of the 1930s. His charisma and daring heists turned him into an anti-hero in the eyes of the public. Declared public enemy #1 by the FBI, Dillinger was shot and killed by police outside a movie theater in 1934. His legacy endures as one of the most iconic figures in American crime history. Ted Bundy was one of America's most terrifying serial killers in the 1970s. With his handsome and charismatic appearance, he lured female victims into traps. Bundy confessed to killing over 30 young women. Captured in 1978, he was sentenced to death. In 1989, he was executed in the electric chair. Bundy remains a chilling example of psychopathic charm. Arthur "Doc" Barker was a key member of the infamous Barker Karpis gang in the 1930s. Under the leadership of his mother, Ma Barker, he participated in numerous bank robberies and kidnappings. Captured by the FBI in 1935, he was sent to Alcatraz prison. In 1939, Barker was shot and killed while attempting to escape. He remains a notorious figure in crime history. Bugsy Siegel was one of the most infamous figures in the American Mafia. In the 1940s, he laid the foundation for Las Vegas by opening the Flamingo Hotel, shaping the city's future as a gambling hub. Mismanagement of mob funds led to his assassination in 1947. Siegel remains a key figure in both the history of organized crime and the rise of Las Vegas. Frank Costello was one of the most influential mafia leaders of the 20th century. Known for his diplomacy and intelligence, he earned the nickname the Prime Minister of the Mafia. Costello expanded his empire through gambling and political influence. He survived an assassination attempt in 1957. Costello proved that power in the underworld could be achieved through both strategy and diplomacy. Jesse James was one of the most infamous outlaws of the 1800s. After the American Civil War, he and his brother Frank carried out bank and train robberies. Though likened to Robin Hood, he was a ruthless criminal. In 1882, he was shot and killed by a trusted friend. His death cemented his legacy as one of the Wild West's legendary figures. Billy the Kid, born Henry McCarty, was one of the most notorious outlaws of the 1800s. Known for cattle rustling and murder, it's claimed he killed 21 people by the age of 21. His outlaw lifestyle turned him into a legendary figure of the Wild West. He was shot and killed in 1881 by Sheriff Pat Garrett, forever cementing his place in history.